Let's get free from fibromyalgia, stage 0. Hello and welcome to our online fibromyalgia program. My name is Brehan Crawford. I'm a licensed acupuncturist and I have over 15 years of training and experience in helping people to overcome chronic health conditions. In this series of videos, we're going to be unpacking the different causes of the chronic pain and fatigue that often get labeled as fibromyalgia, how to address those underlying causes, and how to find relief from symptoms. Many of these concepts will also apply to people struggling with conditions that are comorbid with fibromyalgia, such as chronic fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, and long haul COVID, or that have some of the same underlying causes, like some autoimmune conditions. The therapies we'll be talking about will mostly fall into 4 categories. Number 1, simple and safe exercises that you can do at home, whenever you need to, without any fancy equipment. Number 2, diet and lifestyle modifications that help correct some of the underlying causes of fibromyalgia and help you live your best life and stay healthy. Number 3, mental health practices to develop and maintain a non-toxic but positive mindset and rewire your brain for more happiness, more energy, and less pain. And number 4, botanical medicines to address the underlying causes of chronic disease and promote healthy immune responses, a healthy microbiome profile, healthy mitochondrial function, and much more. I'll tell you exactly what they are so you can get them anywhere you like. But if you find this program helpful and want to support the work we're doing, you can get the best quality of everything I will talk about from my website in the links below. You can also click over there to subscribe to the channel, and please make sure to follow me on other social media. And before you get started with this, please know that this video is for educational and informative purposes only and is not meant to be medical advice or to replace the advice you've already been given by a medical professional. Please consult with your physician before beginning any new exercise program, before changing your diet, or before starting or stopping any supplement or medication. So let's get started by discussing what fibromyalgia is and what it is not. When it comes to understanding the causes of chronic pain, I cannot emphasize enough that the context is everything. Some of these causes may apply to you, some of them may not. 2 people who present with the same symptoms may have different underlying causes, and 2 people with the same underlying cause may have different symptoms. Take what applies to you and leave the rest behind. And this is why we address fibromyalgia and its associated conditions in stages. Not everyone will need to work through every stage, but this video is called stage 0 because it is foundational, of course, to all the others. What is fibromyalgia? Fibromyalgia is a diagnosis of exclusion. It has no set diagnostic criteria, and when you receive this diagnosis, it basically means that you're in pain, but your provider doesn't really know why. There is a lot of research into various causes of fibromyalgia, which has led to tests such as FMA, which isn't really conclusive and doesn't really lead to any kind of treatment, and all kinds of hypotheses around autoimmunity, toxicity, genetics, etc. But despite this, no comprehensive understanding of all of the pathomechanisms of fibromyalgia exists, and there's no one effective treatment in the conventional medical sphere. So as a result of this confusion, patients often get gaslit by their providers into believing the pain is made up or all in their head, and are frequently shuffled out the door as quickly as possible with a prescription for an antidepressant or a referral to a specialist who offers only more questions and no solutions. Maybe a script for drugs that come with undesirable side effects, and those drugs may not even be effective at controlling all of the pain. If we take a step back from this hamster wheel of industrialized medicine, we're able to corroborate the evidence around those causes of chronic pain from a biomedical standpoint with a mature paradigm of holistic understanding of human physiology. This is a whole systems approach that allows us to identify multiple causes that most patients have of the chronic pain that then gets labeled as fibromyalgia. A benefit of this method is that along with a complete understanding comes a strategy for treatment, working in numbered stages to walk each specific cause and its associated type of pain out of your body. Each stage will come with its own associated video, where we take it apart from both a modern and traditional understanding, talk about how it can create chronic pain, and address the best courses of action to find that freedom from it that we all want. So this video is called Stage 0 because it applies to basically everyone and is foundational to all of the other stages. In addition to the context and introduction I've just given you, we're going to cover 2 exercises today that can set the stage for massive relief from any cause of chronic pain. These 2 exercises are not going to magically give you instantaneous relief. I wish that were possible, probably not today, but they will help make the other things I'm going to describe in the future much more powerful. One thing before we dive in, what fibromyalgia is not. So it is not all in your head. In time, as we unpack the various causes of chronic pain, you'll come to understand why depression is often associated with fibromyalgia, but separate from it. You'll come to understand why a positive mindset is helpful, but needs to be grounded in reality, and we're going to practice developing that grounded presence today. So, the desired outcome, a life free from pain and full of energy and opportunity. The understanding of your own history and the ability to write a new narrative for your life going forward. Understanding all of this and making the necessary changes takes physical, mental, and emotional capacity. You may already be overloaded. Most of my patients with fibromyalgia are when they come to see me for the first time. So the first thing we're going to do is help you take a breath of fresh air. For the first two exercises, the only thing you'll need other than the device you're watching this video on is a journal and something to write with. Let's jump in with the first exercise. Because we address fibromyalgia in stages, we need to know which stages apply to you. One of the ways we differentiate them is by observing your breath. So, sit still in a comfortable position. You can lie down if you want to. Just make sure you don't fall asleep, please. And then we'll wait for just a few seconds. Your task here is to observe your own breathing. So while I talk, just close your eyes and turn your gaze inward to notice when you breathe in and when you breathe out. Later on, we'll teach you to breathe in specific ways to change your physiology and your body's perception of pain. But before we can go there, I'd like you to just take a minute to tune into your own body and notice how you are breathing. This is how we start from zero. Treat your breath like watching waves come ashore at the beach. Sometimes they're large, sometimes just a ripple. Sometimes they crest, sometimes they roll. But they keep coming, just like you're breathing. As long as you're alive, you're breathing. And your breath is just as much of a force of nature as those waves on the beach. As you continue to notice your breathing, you may notice that your breathing starts to get easier. And yes, you are probably subtly interfering with this while you listen to me speak. That's both inevitable and okay. Watching without acting is a practice that takes time. But this will develop your ability to trust in your subconscious and your own intuition. It connects your active mind and your body's innate animal intelligence. The key point of this exercise is observing and accepting your inner state, including all of the pain you may currently experience without immediately jumping in to try and change it. Just notice how you're breathing. When you're breathing in, when you're breathing out, when you're holding your breath and not breathing at all. You may notice areas of pain in your body while you do this. If you're holding part of your body tight, you don't have to try and let it go just yet, but notice where it is. Give that pain a quality. Is it sharp, dull, burning, electrical? Does the pain wander around, or is it fixed in place? It's okay for it to be more than one of these. We will address each of them in time. So the stresses of life, the chronic pain of exhaustion weigh on all of us, and it's a normal response to begin to dissociate, to wish for something other than what is present right now. Pain especially will make you look outside of your body for anything to distract you from your present condition. If you don't have pain right now, just notice where your tension is. Is one shoulder elevated higher than the other? Is one foot colder than the other? Are your ribs very tight when you breathe? Write down all the feelings you have in your body. Does your jaw move evenly on both sides when you talk or chew? When you inhale, is it deep into your lower belly or up around your neck? Notice what parts of your body feel hot or cold, sweaty or itchy. Anything other than just relaxed and at peace. And again, notice when you take a breath in and when you let that breath out. The goal of this exercise is really to have no goal other than observation. Now, pause the video here, please, and write down in your journal what types of pain you feel. Write down all the feelings you have in your body. So with this practice, you're learning to follow your own fate. You learn to get out of your own way and differentiate yourself by accepting how you breathe, what kinds of pain you have, and how you react to the events of your life without trying to change any of that. Your subconscious is the fastest and smartest part of your body. It helps you make decisions faster than you can consciously think and process. So checking in with it, observing it, is checking in with your deepest and truest nature. Your active and conscious mind is like the CEO of a big corporation. It directs every force in your body that can take direction. And your subconscious is more like the weather. You can't really tell it what to do, but by watching it, you can leverage it to your advantage. Understanding some basics. Very often, the first time people practice the breathing and observation exercise we just went through, they begin to feel very uncomfortable and to feel like their pain is actually getting worse. And this is, believe it or not, this is normal, and it means you're actually doing it right. In each stage of the process, we will get more deeply involved in the tools you can use directly to relieve the states of infection, inflammation, disease, or disharmony in your body, and pain relief often comes along with that. But we have to start with these basics to get to a place where those can be chosen correctly and used at the right time. So if you've ever studied a traditional discipline like martial arts or playing a musical instrument, you'll probably remember that at some point your teacher said to you that advanced practice is merely repetition of the basics. You can learn all of the fancy flips or chords in the world, but if you cannot stand and walk with a root or practice your scales, you cannot advance. We are covering the basics first because in medicine, it's really easy to get lost in the weeds of complexity. So no matter where you go with this Fibro program or anything else, you can always come back to observing your breath. And every person watching this video series and going through this training has a different history, a different set of symptoms, and different conditions around their body and mind. Just by noticing your breath, you can notice a lot. So take some notes now, please, about the following things. Are you holding your breath until you think about breathing, or do you naturally breathe in and out easily? When you breathe, do you tend to yawn more or sigh more? Yawning means you're breathing in more than you're breathing out. Sighing means the opposite. You're breathing out more than you're breathing in. What kinds of pain do you currently feel? If you didn't journal those before, now's a good time to do it. The most common types people experience with fibromyalgia are wandering pain, dull achy pain, electrical burning pain, and sharp stabbing pain. And based on that information, we will be able to tell what stages will be appropriate for you. How to understand this and break it down. Ultimately, we are using nitric oxide as a signaling gas to determine the perception of pain. Your body needs to hit a sweet spot of nitric oxide to function correctly. Too much NO, pain. Too little, pain. About 90% of fibromyalgia patients present initially with excess nitric oxide and should go through the applicable stages of 1 through 4 first. The other 10% are in a state we call deficiency, which is addressed in stages 5 and beyond. And if you're not sure where to start with stage 1. If you're definitely in the deficiency contingent, you can start at stage 5, but go back to stage 1 if you notice that you start to sigh a lot or if your pain isn't getting any better. If you are sighing at all, you will want to start with stage 1. If you are never sighing and only yawning, take a rest or a short nap and then try it again. If you notice you're sighing, start with stage 1. If you're still yawning, you can go straight to stage 5 and then reassess. Now, if you have tried using Dr. Google to address your health, you will have seen how many thousands of blog posts, stories good and bad, and scam sales there are for medical products and services on the internet. It is very hard to find what is appropriate for you. So many things you've already tried may have even been ineffective or harmful. And the most complicated disease states often take many years to develop to a place where they can be concretely diagnosed by a professional. That diagnosis is an acknowledgement that physiological processes in your body have become more and more concrete and specialized as they branch away from what is considered healthy. A diagnosis is the name of a disease. It's one endpoint, but it's not the story of how you got there. So I can't tell you how many of my patients have had complex neurological conditions where their doctors say, you might be heading towards MS, but we won't be able to diagnose you for at least 10 years. And the same goes for fibromyalgia. The same goes for many autoimmune conditions. But these people are already struggling and suffering, and learning the basics now can make it so that you never get the diagnosis. And in fact, you stop seeking one out because your symptoms are going away, and you've healed yourself to become truly well again. This is the foundation of wellness. The focus is not on disease states, but on the promotion of health. If you've already been diagnosed, it's not too late. The same principles apply. And it might take you a little longer to get where you want to be, but remission is often still possible. Now that you've practiced observing your breath, our next focus is on developing the practice of gratitude and compassion. And I know this can sound hokey or new agey, but there is solid evidence behind it. It's also very well grounded in medical traditions, and having worked with thousands of patients over the last decade, I can say with complete integrity that this is the foundational step for everyone. If you have already developed a robust practice of meditation or compassion or gratitude, this will probably come easy for you, but please try it anyway, because this method is probably framed a little bit differently than you've done it in the past. If you took some time between the breathing observation exercise earlier in the video and now, please review that first exercise where we just listened to our own breathing again. This will put you in a bit more of a state where you're ready to go on to step 2, which is noticing what's already working well in your mind, your body, and the world around you. If you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you are suffering and that you have been suffering for a long time. But as we know, it can always be worse. And in many cases, we've been so afraid of things getting worse that we often imagine ourselves living in that future where our health, our lives, our relationships have degraded even further. So when we put ourselves in that scenario, that causes us to be afraid even more. That fear causes tension and dissociation. And those two things cause us to make ill-informed, fear-based decisions, which then create the dystopian future we've been dreading the whole time. And all the while, living our lives, we've been missing out on the good stuff. So we're going to be honest with this practice about our fears. Notice the good stuff we already have around us. If it can always be worse, it can always be better too. And this is where we point ourselves towards better. So take out a pen and a sheet of paper. You're going to do this for several days in a row. So you might even want to start a special journal for it. Here's mine. I like to look back at what I've written over the years and notice how things have changed, how my life and priorities have changed, how what I wanted to come true has, and how my perspectives have matured. So at the top of your journal page, you're going to write out 2 goals for yourself to maintain perspective as we continue through the exercise. The first goal is going to have what we call a yin nature. Yin in this sense means that it's an inner goal. It is for you and you alone. It is something inside yourself you would like to change, and it could be easier to find gratitude or feel more comfortable inside my body. If the observation exercise we did before made you uncomfortable, try one of these. If it made you feel more relaxed, notice that and run with it. So feel this relaxed all the time could be your goal. On the next line, we're going to write what we call a yang goal. In this scenario, yang means external to you, something outside yourself, but still within your sphere of influence. And this is a kind of positive change you'd like to affect in your world. So it could be as broad as world peace, but try dialing it back, something specific that can be realistically actualized soon, especially as your health improves. Some examples of this could be to help your spouse eat healthier, or my children are successful in school. Write it in the first person. Yang goals are actions we want to create for others to make their lives more beautiful. Next page, or next line, write out a quote which will help you grow in the direction of these goals. This is where you visualize what your best future looks like and you write down a description of it. So if your goals are for better health for yourself and your family, a quote could be, "My family and I have the vitality to live in relaxed happiness." The next section is where we work on self-cultivation by acknowledging our fears and deeper disturbances. So sit in calm silence for a moment and see what arises in your mind when you try to notice what's in the way of reaching those goals you just set and the future you just visualized. And no barrier is too great to write about. So even if something seems so daunting that you can't think of how to get there, just notice what specifically is in the way. It could be something external to you, like an institution or another person. But the more you practice this, the more you'll notice that those blocks to progress are usually not so much external forces, but the fears that we harbor inside ourselves about those forces. Here's where you name them. Write them down. Write down how they affect you physically. When you consider one of those barriers to success, what do you feel in your body? You can pause the video here if you want to contemplate and write all of this down. Now, once you're done writing, sit with that for a second, and then we're going to practice forgiveness. If the barriers were outside of you, find compassion for the people who put them there. If you're unable to do that, write down that you were unable to do that, and in time and with practice, this becomes easier. Compassion for others has a strangely inverse but inevitable way of making you stronger and more resilient so that they can't hurt you again. If the barrier was already inside yourself, forgive yourself for holding it there. You put it there because you needed it to survive. Pulling out all the barriers we have inside ourselves to creating beauty allows for deeper internal work and a mind that is more free from anxiety and fear. That healthier mind allows us to make better and more solid choices, make more concrete steps to a healthier body. This is the nature of self-cultivation. While you do this, please have patience with yourself. It's normal for this to be challenging at first. Practice this journaling exercise, please, once a day. Try to be more and more honest with yourself about what you're feeling every time you do it. And a note on emotions. These will often come up as we dig into our old wounds and fears, and this is good. They're usually feelings we've been keeping locked down inside ourselves for a long time. As we become stronger, more open, more resilient, we're able to grieve for what we have suffered and lost, and then to be free from those wounds as we choose a new path for ourselves. So I used to think that when my mind was calm, that I would be completely without emotion and find peace, or get to choose whatever emotion I wanted. And it was easy to ride those waves when they were positive and joyful, but I would get very frustrated myself when I experienced disappointment and felt anger or grief. My mentor used to tell me that old emotions in your body were like a constipated bowel movement. So as we eat food and break it down, our body in its best state of health will keep what it needs and eliminate the rest. Some people can eat junk food and still seem healthy because they easily detoxify themselves of what they don't need so efficiently. And the same is true of life experience. When we're able to feel the grief, sadness, anger, or fear that our bodies create from the things that happen in everyday life, we're able to really acknowledge it and let it go. We hang on only to what we need to mature, to grow, and to become more grounded. The pace of modern life often means we don't have the time to reflect on past experience and truly digest what its toll on our bodies had been. The emotional backup has real physiological effects, so the practice you're diving into now will help you unpack and release any of that sludge that is holding you back. Just remember, as these feelings come up, release them with compassion for others and most importantly for yourself. Neurologically, this practice stabilizes the alpha waves of your brain and promotes neurogenesis, and that is literally the healing and regrowth of nerve tissue. As you get more practice, when you reveal fears, either new or old, ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen? And be honest, what is the worst thing that could happen as a result of that fear? And journal that. Then breathe out and release it with compassion. In time, you'll discover that many of your fears were actually quite hollow, and once you name them directly, you will see how easy they are to let go of, how strong you are in the face of everything that is really in your way. Hidden fears are the brakes that hold us back from moving through life with ease and grace. As you progress into physical exercises later in this program, you can review your fears then as well, and you may find that your athletic performance and capacity exponentially increase as a result. Now we're going to review whom and what we are grateful for. These could be events that occurred to loved ones or actions that people in your circle took that you appreciate for having a positive impact. Write down the first 3 that come to mind. And this isn't just feel-good fluff. The part of the exercise that we're doing now is specific gratitude practice, but it's for things that are in your sphere, but don't necessarily affect you directly. It helps your mind create space to hold other people in a positive light and gives you the capacity to emotionally manage your larger tribal and community affiliations. This is how you start to create a grateful and beautiful community. Set your intentions on the who before the what. The what will change based on the needs of the who, or whom. Now, in the next line of your journal, write down what those people need. What can you do to be of service to them? Can you introduce them to someone who can help them out? They're thirsty, lead them to clean water. Just please be unattached to whether or not they drink. And on the next line, we're going to write out a specific plan of action to make these good intentions come to life. Try to keep it simple. 1 or 2 sentences is all you need. Now we're going to envision a growth of our material and energetic resources. If part of the future you're trying to create involves money, this is where you're going to write down your targets for creating revenue. And understand that as money arrives, it will also leave, but creating openings for it to come into your life can create greater resources that you can use to help your friends and family. This same concept applies to your energy level and feeling of vitality. And when you have ample reserves of these things, you tend to have an easier time making plans and achieving your goals. So if you're financially satisfied now, consider your time and energy levels as your currency and set goals for what you're able to accomplish, because the drains on your energy levels from poor health are beginning to evaporate, leaving you with a large reservoir of strength that you can use to build yourself up and to help others. And the last section for today is action steps. We're going to write down 1 or 2 actions for each line of a few categories per day. These should be very simple action steps to encourage the growth of your resources in each category. You don't have to get them all accomplished, but put down on paper what it is you'd love to do if given the opportunity. Self-cultivation, gratitude, community cultivation, organization, financial flow, and energy levels. Now that you've completed these 2 foundational exercises, the observation of your own breath and the practice of gratitude and compassion, you're ready to get started with stage 1, or whatever the first stage is for you. Make sure to incorporate these practices every day as you move through the rest of these videos. You can also use your journal to keep track of your symptoms. Note down every day, please, what parts of your body are feeling pain, what type of pain it is, wandering, heavy, electrical burning, or sharp stabbing pain, how severe it is from 0 to 10, and how much energy you have, again, on a 0 to 10 scale. We're not looking to see massive or immediate improvement. That does happen with fibromyalgia, but it's unusual. We're also not looking to create a straight line back to complete and vibrant health. It's very normal to have this be a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of a thing. Just be consistent and persistent. Consistency and persistence over time is usually what wins. And as you go through this practice, know that it's normal to have setbacks or flares and symptoms. These can often be triggered by new causes of inflammation, like a new viral infection, a new injury, periods of prolonged stress, or even very strong acute stresses. And when this happens, make sure to go back to stage 0. Work your way back through any stage that applies to you again. You'll usually go back into remission much faster the second time around. Please leave any questions or comments you have in the comment section below. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out our other videos on fibromyalgia.